Welcome back everyone, we're off down Port Linford's. We're going to see DGR2, he's just finished restoring it. We're going to be there in about, I don't know, 5 minutes. So I'll catch up with you when we get there. Just check the microphone's working, Paul, just tell us your bank details.
Did you get that?
Right fellas, welcome back. I'm here with Paul. We've just came down. Obviously you can see he's got two amazing cars out here. DGR1, which is Paul's.
It is, yeah.
And DGR2, which have you been looking after, Paul? Would you call it looking after it?
Well, I've been restoring it for the last 8 years now.
So it's just been finished, hasn't it?
It just finished. We've just done the stickers Wednesday, Thursday last week.
Right.
So yeah, it's as fresh as it can be.
So we're going to have a look around. We'll tell you a bit of the history on it. We'll have a bit, hopefully start it up, Paul, if it's all right.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
We'll have a bit port about and find out some details on it. Now, I've already been down, Paul's already told us a little bit about this, Paul, hasn't it?
We did,
yeah. It was lost for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I'll start beginning to probably make it easier. These two cars were the first two cars built by Dick Johnson in Australia to run in the Australian Touring Car Series, starting in 1987. So these two cars both started out as standard 3-door Coswies.
Right.
They were RS500s until the homologation was complete in 1987. So this was Dick Johnson's car, the car that he raced in 87. This car was driven by a guy called Greg Hansford, who was a motorbike racer.
Right.
Early in his career.
Right.
He became Dick's teammate in 87, and this car was driven by him, but it was actually left-hand drive. It was the only one of 6 Sierras that Dick built. All 6 are still alive, but this car, as I say, was originally built as a left-hand drive car.
This was actually left-hand drive at some point?
When it was built brand new for 87, it was built as a left-hand drive car.
Right.
And the reason for that was, so I've been told, obviously all the Europeans at the time, the Eggenberger team and what have you, were sort of dominating racing. Of course they were all left-hand drive cars. So I think Dick wanted to see if there was anything in it, any advantage to being a left-hand drive car, you know, the balance of the car or what have you. So he built this car as a left-hand drive car to test the theory, I suppose you would say. So yeah, it was in this livery, raced in 87 by Greg, and a few other drivers. Obviously when they did the big rounds they had quite a few other drivers in them for Bathurst and one thing and another, but it was predominantly driven by him. Only ever used was this car in 87. Right. And then end of 87 for 1988 season, Dick then built a brand new car which was DGR3. Right. So for 88 Dick drove the brand new car DGR3. DGR won this car, then became his new teammate John Bow. This became John Bow's car, and this ran as number 18. As you see it now, but with number 18 on the door, because 17 was Dick Johnson's number, 18 was always his teammates. End of 88, both these cars, sorry, I've skipped a bit, this car became like a show car for 88. So all they did with it, they took it round to Ford garages, Shell petrol stations, and they put it on display for people to see, look at, they could sit in it. Really? As a promotion thing for Shell, really, as a thank you, I suppose, for the sponsorship for the team. So this car only ever raced in Australia for 1 year, and then say became a show car, and then at the end of 88, Dick Johnson sold these two cars to Mike Smith, the Radio 1 DJ. Mike and Rob Gravett ran a company called Trackstar, and they raced in British touring cars, and these two cars were painted white by Dick Johnson before they left Australia. It was part of the deal, and this car was then converted to right-hand drive for Mike to drive over here. So they did that conversion before it came over, and then the Trackstar team painted red. Do you know, I'm trying to remember the bottom half, painted them red, and they became the cartel sponsored cars. So to change it from left to right hand drive, they just cut the bulkhead out? Yeah, simple as that. Can you still see where they've done it when you It's difficult to highlight. You can see if you know what you're looking for, but the problem with these shells is they're all seam welded anyway. Right. So obviously where they've chopped the bulkhead out, they seam weld it back in. So there are telltale signs which I'll show you as we go around the car. There's certain ways of telling that this was once a left-hand drive car.
That's an interesting thing what they've done that, man.
Yeah.
Just to, you think they would just buy a new shell?
Well, I
suppose it's quicker than putting a cage in that.
Well, I think, yeah, because the car was already built, it'll have just been easy. To swap the bulkhead on a race car, you've only the dash out, the engine will have been taken out anyway, and probably been refreshed as part of the deal before they sold. So that it was, when everything's stripped out, it's quite easy to swap a bulkhead over.
Like you see it, what you're saying, it's just been, would you call it restored?
This has, yeah. This car, after it was finished with in 1990 was the last time this car was used in British touring cars. It then disappeared. It was sold by the Trackstar team and it was completely lost. Nobody knew what had happened to it. Presumed scrapped or whatever, nobody really knew. And in 2012 I was displaying my Caltex car at NEC at Birmingham at the Autosport show, and this guy was looking around the car and he just said to me, he says, "I've got an old touring car." "Oh, what have you got?" He says, "Oh, it's an ex-Trackstar car." Well, obviously we knew the whereabouts of DGR1 because that's history of that car has been traceable in every owner right from Dick building it right to now, but this car was missing. So of course my ears pricked and I thought, well, if this is the missing Trackstar car, I knew what it was. I knew it was the missing Dick Johnson car, the one that everybody had been trying to find for years, because all of the other Dick Johnson cars, number 1 and 3, 4, 5 and 6, were all still alive in Australia. One was here in the UK. This car was missing. So I said to him, "How do you know it's a Trackstar car?" And he said, "Oh, there's a sticker on the floor at the back. Clearly says Trackstar." And I said to him, first question, has he got the air jack towers in? Because obviously only the genuine touring cars ever ran with air jacks in. Rally cars or anything else didn't bother. It was only touring cars. And he said, "Oh, I don't know. I can't say I've ever noticed." And I said, "How long have you had it?" "Oh," he says, "must have had it 15 odd years," which sort of tied in with this car vanishing. And he says it's been used as a rally car. And I was like, "Really?" He says, yeah, I did one rally with it and the gearbox broke on the first stage." He said, "and I put it in a shed."
Forgot about it.
I forgot about it. It's been there ever since. So I said to him, "Well, if you've got what I think you've got something quite special. You know, you've got a car that everybody's been trying to find for the last 20 years, you know, the missing Dick Johnson car." And he said, will you be able to tell if you have a look at it?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'll be able to tell, no problem at all." So he says, "Well, if I bring it up, will you have a look at it and see if you can identify it?" I said, yeah, of course I will, yeah. So anyway, about a week later, he rings me up, he says, "Can I bring it up?" And I says, "Yeah, no problem." So he brings it up on a trailer to my old place where I used to live. And you know when you just get a gut feeling? I saw it coming down the road because there was a long road down to the other house and you could see it. And I just got this gut feeling it was the car, you know. And anyway, it pulls up and obviously it didn't look like this, it was just plain white. It didn't have the centre lock wheels on anymore, it had the 4-stud wheels. Obviously it didn't have the RS500 bumpers or spoilers on, they'd all been taken off and replaced just for standard 3-door Cosy stuff because it was cheaper. But there was just something about it. And I walked up to it, I looked at roll cage. As soon as I saw roll cage, I knew it was the car.
So that's still the roll cage in it now?
Yeah, luckily the shell, they hadn't modified anything at all on the shell. The cage was the same, all the bracketry underneath, because obviously all the gearbox coolers, the diff coolers and that all mount underneath on these cars to let air come under car to cool them. And I lifted the bonnet, and they're quite unique is the cages on the Australian touring cars and the way they gusset them and everything. It was just the layout. I knew 100% it was the car. And I thought, well, there's only one way to be sure. So I rang my mate Andy Lloyd, who owned DGR1 at the time, and I said to him, "Where's the chassis number on DGR1? "What do you want to know that for?" he says. I says, "Well, just tell me where it is." He says, "Have you found DGR2? I says, "Yeah, I'm stood looking at it now. I'm stood in front of it." "Never." I says, "Yeah, I definitely am, but to find the chassis number will just 100% verify it." He told me where it was on the turret top on that side. So I went and got some sandpaper and I said to Ian, "Is it alright if I rub paint off, you know?" "Well, yeah, of course." So we flatted all paint off, and of course with it being a race car and a rally car, over years they get painted quite a bit. So I'm there rubbing on through this paint, and as I'm rubbing away you could start to see it appear. As clear as a bell, you could see DJR2.
But you wasn't, were you?
I was, yeah. Yeah, I was like a fat kid in a sweet shop, as they say.
So what happened with the car when you found out it was DJR2?
Well, obviously, we knew it anyway, but once we'd 100% confirmed it, Ian sort of said, well, you know, what's it worth? What do we do with it? And I
What
said,
year was this?
8 years ago, 2012.
So just before they started really going massively
Yeah, before they were crazy money to buy one of these. They've always been valuable, but, you know, you could buy one for probably 40, 50,000 then. So anyway, when we worked out it was that car 100%, he said to me, well, you know, what do I do with it now? I said, well, it wants putting back to how it stands now, exactly as it was in period. So he says, well, will you do it for me? You know about a lot about these cars and you know exactly what it should be. Do you fancy putting it back to how it should be?
How it should be.
And the rest, they say, is history. 8 years later, after searching all over to find original proper Group A parts, because a lot of the stuff's remanufactured now, so it's quite easy to buy this stuff. But when we started this restoration, nobody was remanufacturing anything. So we had to, you know, contacts in Australia to try and find original parts from the Dick Johnson team and one thing and another. And slowly but surely, there's a lot of new parts on it now because the parts have been remanufactured. So there's a lot of parts on it now that are brand new, but they're all 100% correct original Group A parts. And as I say, it's taken 8 years and it's just been finished now.
Yeah, I was just looking on your Facebook the other day, we just get the stickers and that put on, weren't you?
Yeah, Wednesday, it went for polishing on Wednesday to Dibsy at Car Tech at Pickering. He did the paint work for us. And he just wanted a little light flat and a polish just before we put stickers on. Then on Thursday it went to Zach at Vinyl Works. He's done all the graphics for us. And then back here, just to, you know, finishing touches, put the fog light grills in, the rear spoiler on and paint the lip on the black and these bits black. And that's it, it's ready to go back. There is still a few minor little things to do on it when Ian gets it back. But you know, predominantly it's on the button now, it starts, runs, drives. It's just a suspension to set up, and the airbox, we didn't have the original big carbon fibre air intake scoop for it. We've got them now, so that wants fitting. Silly things like the floor plate, you know, the aluminium floor plate is still to put in, but just finishing little touches really.
So what's the plans for the car now? Is he going to use it, or is he?
He says Ian races with his son Max, who's an incredibly quick driver. Ian's no slow coach himself, he can pedal a car, and they have an RS500 already, an Imberti car that they race, an Italian car that they race in the historic series here in UK and in Europe, and they say they're going to race this.
Are they?
Well, whether they do or not, I don't know. It's an important car. But I think they have to have a go with it. I think they'll.
Be sure to get some stone chips on it because it's immaculate at the minute, isn't it?
Well, I know, but it's a race car. They don't look like a race car, do they? Unless they've got some scuffs and scrapes on them.
They don't.
I'm pretty sure they'll at least do a few races with it.
Amazing as well, man. It's an amazing job what he's done restoring it, really is.
Yeah, it's been a long time, a lot of work, and we've done it. It's taken 8 years because it hasn't just been flat out for 8 years. You know, we've done it in sort of as and when the parts were available. Ian has a lot of other race cars, so obviously he's running them, maintaining them throughout the years. So obviously there isn't an endless amount of money you can just chuck at these cars. And as you can imagine, they're very expensive to build. The parts are very expensive. So
when I first came down here, we've done a video, didn't we, around your full workshop. This was in the corner, wasn't it, at the time? Pretty much. It wasn't a shell, but it was halfway built.
Yeah, it was sort of 3/4 built really. We were waiting for engine management, looms and things like that, you know, so it wasn't too far off. I think when the stickers are on them, they always look a lot more complete, don't they? You saw it was just plain red. It had no stickers on it at all then.
Looks cool with the two of them together, mind.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, they do look good. It's nice because this is the first time that the two cars have sat next to each other in their original Dick Johnson livery for over 30 years. So, you know, for people who know what they are and race fans, it's quite
quite an special thing.
Yeah, it is. There's been a lot of interest, obviously, over from Australia.
I bet. I noticed when we've done videos before, the Aussies seem to get a bit upset that they're in England, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah. I think they'd like to see him back in Australia.
Fair enough.
It would be nice, you know, because obviously the other 4 are all out there.
Aye.
So it would be nice. It would be a fantastic shot to see all 6 of them parked next to each other. But
aye, parked next to each other.
Unless somebody gets a really big fat checkbook out, I can't see him. Can't see him leaving the UK anytime soon, to be honest, because I know Ian wouldn't sell this.
No?
No. And that's not for sale.
No.
So I can't see him ever leaving, to be honest.
Maybe some point in many years to come they might end up together.
I'd like, to be honest, me and Ian did actually talk about a few years ago, we would like to take them to Australia and race them, do a race out there.
Aye.
But obviously the cost of that is, it's just one of them tick a box things, really. You know, imagine turning up these 2 coming out of a container and going and racing. You know, I would absolutely love to drive that car round Bathurst. It would be absolutely incredible.
That'd be your bucket list. One your bucket list things.
100%. And I'd love to meet Dick Johnson himself, because Dick Johnson,
I bet he would love to see them again.
He's seen pictures of them. He knows, obviously, he knows I own that car. He knows I've had it for a while. He knows we've been restoring this car. I sent him an email only yesterday, funny enough, of the picture of them 2 sat together. And his wife, Julianne, she always sees stuff I put on Facebook.
Does she?
Yeah. She like, you know, follows his old history a lot.
Aye.
There's a new book out, which I'll show you, which is, it's just come out now, been written in Australia. And it's celebrating 40 years of Dick Johnson racing. And it's every car he's ever raced. And they've detailed all about these. Every car is raced, you know, when it was built, who drove it, what it achieved, what happened to it now. And obviously these 2 cars feature in the book
a lot,
quite a bit, you know, especially because these were the 2, if you like, development cars for Dick Johnson.
Right.
You know, he had a lot of trouble with them in the early days, as everybody did. Whenever a new car comes out, there's always a minimum of a year's racing where you have to iron out all the problems and get to understand the car. So these 2 cars were really Dick's development cars, and the ones that he had a bit of trouble with. But they did all right. This car won a few races. That car was 2nd at Bathurst in '88. Won the GP support race outright, and that is a fantastic video to watch. If you're ever going to get goosebumps if you own a car, because on the last 2 laps it was running out of fuel.
Was it?
Yeah, he was miles in front, and the last 2 laps, as he was coming out at corners, you could hear it coughing, banging and misfiring, and everybody's like, is he going to make it? And even commentators, you know, and I think it was, there was one at Famous Drivers at the time was doing the commentary with the normal commentator, and Alan Moffat, I think it was Alan Moffat, and obviously he knows the cars, and he was saying, I think he's running out of fuel. You know, because as he's coming out at corners, all fuel surges to one side. Car was bang, 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 and it was misfiring. As soon as he'd get down straights, it came back on 4 cylinders and he was off. But as you watched the race, you could see the other cars getting closer and closer and closer. But and on the last lap, the last corner, I think it was a Nissan or a Holden, it could have been, was right up behind him, and you were like, no, and he just got across the line.
Just done it.
Yeah, and won the race in that car, which was, I think, it was the first win for an RS500.
Was it?
You know, when the homologation and they swapped to 500s, it was the first win for an RS500 in Australia.
Because we're seeing these originally started out as 3 doors, which will have been a smaller turbo to what's on them now, like less power, maybe 300, 350?
350, something like that, yeah.
Then they put the bigger turbo, take them up over 500?
That's right, yeah. I think Dick's openly said in some of his interviews over years that, you know, the later cars were running well over 600 horsepower.
Good weather.
Which, you know, when you think back 30 years ago, 600 horsepower was easily achievable now in a Cosworth engine, but back then, you know, to get 500, you were doing really well. But he was
like we said before, it's reliability as well, isn't it, Paul? It's not like just a 10-second burst.
That's it.
I mean, you're doing it for like an hour around the track with more.
Well, the thing, when you look at, you know, the Aussie tracks, especially Bathurst, is a very long track, and they would, you know, they're not 20-minute races. the quite long races there. So to run a car at the kind of boost they were running to get over 550 horsepower, to make them last that race was a task in itself. Really.
Would they rebuild them? How often would they rebuild the engines back then?
I could imagine after every race, to be quite honest. I would think they'll at least take them out, have a strip them and have a look, and
check
you know, just check everything's all right.
Measure stuff and. Can we have a look under the bonnet on it?
You can, yeah.
Class. So like you were saying, Paul, this isn't 100% finished at the minute. You've still got to change the airbox?
Yeah, the airbox on this is just one that's been temporary made to put on till we could get the original big carbon air
like what's on,
like what we shot on DGR1. Yeah, that'll be put onto this. Hoses changed, things like that. But everything, it's obviously the original roll cage. That's all exactly as it was in period. Nothing's been changed there. It's got a genuine RS500 correct engine back in it with the correct T4 turbo, the 8 injector, original planning running 8 greens. All the original breather kit, which was copied off DJR1, exactly the same. Obviously, over the years as they raced, things did get changed on these cars, because we've noticed, if you look back at some very early period pictures of these two in Australia, the breather kit was slightly different.
On this, on DJR2?
On both of them.
Right.
So obviously, as the cars, as we talked about earlier, develop them, they find better ways of you know, upgrading things. So things change. But what we've done with this car is made sure that everything on the car is exactly the same. So they look
same as DJR1?
Exactly, yeah. Everything's the same.
It's immaculate as well, mind, isn't it? Like when you look at the block and everything, you can see it hasn't.
No, well, the engine's brand new. That's been fully rebuilt. Brand new engine management on it, brand new loom. Well, everything's brand new, really.
So what's it done? Just ticked over a bit and been on some rolling water or something?
No, engine's been run on a dyno, so it's been, you know, running, checked, everything's been done correctly to make sure everything's perfect and running the kind of power that Ian would like, which will be at least 550, 560 horsepower.
Oh, that's what you would want, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, it's what you need really, especially if you are thinking of racing it. There's no point in having any less power than that. It's not going to be competitive. And the good thing on these is, so I believe the only 2 of the Dick Johnson cars to ever be stamped with a chassis number are these 2 cars.
Oh, right.
Which is perfect, because obviously they're both stamped DJR1 and DJR2.
On the strut top, just there?
Yeah, on the strut top. So, you know, it's undisputable.
Did yours have something on that strut top?
Yeah, mine's got some writing on that one there. Whether that one has or not, I don't know. I don't think it has.
Right.
But I think that one was just like a Ford part number rather than anything interesting, really.
Not far off Concourse, this really now, is it?
Well, I won't say Concourse, but yeah, it looks nice. You know, we spent a lot of time getting attention to detail on the car. You
can really tell. It is immaculate, mind. Like, see, I think it might suit some stone chips though.
Yeah, I think race cars always look better like this, you know. I mean, you look around this car and you look at this now and look at old DJR1, and you see, you know, the gaps are absolutely perfect on this car. As when we restored this car, we've made all the panel gaps perfect. Everything's been spot welded back on, so it looks like an original brand new car, I suppose. But really, when you look at the two, you know, you can see the difference. This looks fabulous. It does look fabulous, but you know, when you see them with a bit of patina on them, yeah, and a few odd door gaps and things, you know, it makes them look more real, I suppose.
Can I have a look inside, Paul?
Yeah, yeah.
So is that the original style seat as well, is it? Or was it?
This is a modern seat being put in it. Yeah, because obviously, again, if they're going to race it, you have to have a modern, up-to-date seat in it, a modern steering wheel. This is the same sort of style and that as the original, but it's just obviously a brand new one. The gauges in this car, we even tried real hard to get the original.
Oh, good job, that's an action camera.
Tried to get the original style of gauges. So it was difficult really, because we wanted it to look original. So when you look at all the original in-car shots of the car in period, it's things like the gauges and that people pick up on and notice. So we've got like the rev counter is an original autometer. The oil pressure gauge is the original autometer. But some of the others, because Ian did think about racing it, are a more modern stat gauge, but they're all the black old style dial gauges to match DJR one that look the same. There's a couple of things to do inside as well to finish it, like the dash surrounds where the gauges are, they all need to be painted black to match DJR one how they should be. But these were all brand new, made, ready, and obviously the gauges were all fitted and tried, so they've just got to come back to bits to be painted black and put back in.
The other bit left to finish is the floor plates, Paul?
Yeah, which will show on DJR one, they have a foot plate for the driver feet, because obviously when you've taken the carpet and the underlay and everything out, your feet sit too low, so you can struggle to reach the pedals, you see. So they always have an aluminium floor plating plus a footrest on the left hand side. That'll get fabricated and put in. Just minor little jobs, silly things like the rear door cards, they need trimming, because if you look again on DJR one, they're an aluminium door panel but covered in like a black material, and like a velvety material, so they all got to be fitted. Just minor little jobs, you know, just to get it attention, you know,
to get it there.
Yeah, just tiny little jobs.
That's why they put the floor plate in, because the carpet's not there, so your feet.
When you were sat in it, you'll see your feet are too low.
Too low.
Because when you think your insulation and your carpet will be a good inch and a half, won't it, at least?
I thought that was to protect like the paint or something. I never really thought why they had that there.
I'm guessing at that, to be fair. I can assume that it's to raise the feet up. Plus you get the grip, because if you see the floor plates, they always have the holes punched in them. And they either have grip tape on them, you know, the anti-slip stuff, or they have the holes punched in with the grip bit sticking up, so it grabs your feet, so you don't slide about. But yeah, there's that to do, just little job. Obviously harness to fit, but they've got a brand new harness that just wants putting in. One thing I will mention about these cars, because everybody on the internet keeps saying you've got the wrong wheels on it. And we haven't.
You haven't?
No. These cars, the early cars, 1 and 2 and DJR 3, all ran with the BBS wheels on, these wheels. So these are the correct wheels. I think DJR car were famous for having the gold, the 7-spoke wheels on them.
Plus, he got them made himself, the wheels, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Dick had them cast, because they were a stronger wheel, because obviously these, being a 3-piece wheel, I think the original ones probably could even be a bit lighter as well. But Dick Johnson had his own wheels cast, but he didn't run them till I think it was late '89 for Bathurst or something like that. But you know, since these cars have been, a few pictures have been put on the internet, the amount of people, we should put the right wheels on them. But these are definitely the correct wheels, hence why they've been put back on.
I prefer these wheels as well.
I do. If I'm being honest, I'm not a fan of I know the hardened DJR fans think the 7-spokes cost the Dick Johnson wheels. They think they should be on, but we are trying to get these cars exactly as they were in period, and I like these wheels anyway. So these are correct.
I'll put these on.
Yeah,
I'll put these on.
I like them.
Can I jump in, Paul? Maybe start
off. Of course you can, mate. Yeah, help yourself.
Comfortable though, aren't they, once you get inside?
They are, yeah, because you're well grabbed in, aren't you, with them seats, and steering wheel being real close to you, because obviously you need your arms quite an angle to drive properly. Again, something that I learned when I started racing. I was always sat, you know, thought like that.
Seat leaned back?
Yeah, one arm and that arm out at window. But you need to be, you can control the car better the closer you are.
More comfortable as well.
If you feel your feet now, Adam, you're quite low, aren't you? Your heel's quite low. So I think the floor plates just lift your feet up that
little bit. Lift it up just an inch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can heel and toe as well, you see.
I'm not even going to try to do that.
No, I'm not an expert. That takes some mastering, does heel and toeing for your braking and touching the accelerator at the same time.
Is it that way you go?
No, it's a brake and accelerator.
Is it?
What you're doing when you're down, no, other way around, put your toe on the brake, that's it, and then you flick the throttle with the side of your foot. And you know, I mean, when I started learning, you were like, what do you do that for? But when you're downshifting, as you go down the gearbox, if you don't blip the throttle, it can lock the back wheels up as you go down the gear. It just keeps the revs up on the car. But yeah, give her a start up if you want. You know what to do by now, Adam. You know how to get these cars going.
Turn this.
Yeah.
Turn the power.
Turn the power on.
Check it's not in gear.
Yeah.
That would be an expensive accident, wouldn't it?
It would cost you a lot of money if you ran that car into, man.
So turn this?
Yeah, turn that on. That's your main kill switch. You can hear now all pumps are running.
Press the go button.
That's the one, the loud button.
Loud, isn't it?
It is, and it started. Have you noticed how quick, how well it started?
I was just about to say, once it starts, it just ticks, ticks over, like a road car.
Yeah, the good thing with these is because it's on a modern management system.
What it is?
You see, yeah. If you remember when you did my Louis car all that time ago,
Aye.
it was, you have to catch it and you have to keep it going, and because it's on the old management, you see. But now with the modern management, they can control the fueling so much better on startup that it starts and runs and ticks over like a road car.
Wasn't it?
And bearing in mind, you know, a lot of the race cars don't have idle speed control valves on anymore. I think this does. I think this is maybe connected. I could be wrong.
I'll jump out.
It has, yeah, it has got the idle valve on. But on a lot of the race cars, they took them off.
Right.
Because of the problems they had with starting. But now, they can make them run fantastic. Saying that, if you want to sit in this and start this up, this is on the original Bosch system from back in the day when this car was running, period. It's still all completely original. And this car starts exactly the same.
What is this?
It starts on the button.
Perfect.
You have to play with it a bit, you know, just to keep it running till it warms up. But it still starts like that.
We'll start it?
Yeah, you do it, mate. But I was gobsmacked when I bought this car, how unbelievably well it starts. You'll see the difference as well in these two. You know, when you sat in, you'll see the difference between an old, original, 30-odd-year-old dash layout and that. Exactly the same, but just because this is old and a bit...
This does look a bit...
older.
Yeah.
It's about like looking at me and you, Adam. I look a lot better than you.
Oh, see, the seat and everything's different. It just feels totally different to sit in.
Yeah.
The seat feels a lot lower on my sides and not as...
What, yeah, because that one's got the wrap-round protector, so you feel a little bit more enclosed in that one. Plus, you see, this seat's for me. This is the fat size seat. There's that one in there, you see, it's not for me.
So these are the floor plates you want about what that still needs in?
That's it, mate, yeah, they'll just have them fabricated and then just bolted in.
Can we start this one, the Paul?
Yeah, exactly the same, mate. Same button at the back, as you'll see. All the switch panel layout's exactly the same.
So turn this.
That's it.
Which way?
Whichever way you turn. I can't remember, you know when you're not, that's it.
First start?
Yep. Put it into gear.
Aye. I don't want this rolling away, do I?
No, because obviously there's no handbrake.
No. Class. Yeah, I like this inside. I think I prefer this one if I'm honest, mine, but we'll not put that in.
No, just put it in. Just tell everybody you prefer this one. No,
I do. I like how just one, basically just a bit more patina.
Yeah, that's it.
Feels different to sitting as well.
Does it?
Like the steering wheel, everything. I think it's just because of the seat. Obviously, that on that one, it's open.
Yeah, and the steering wheel on that one's a lot closer because that's got a quick release boss on it, you know, so you can take the steering wheel off, as this one hasn't. This one's never had one in period. Aye. But look at that, the old steering wheel, look. She's had better days, hasn't she, eh?
Is that original steering wheel?
Yeah, it's the original one. It's knackered, really. If you were going to race it, you wouldn't race it with that on anymore.
No. See, it's all the same up here, though. All the, well, it's just welded that in?
Yeah, everything's exactly the same because they've both got the original cages in. Aye. And they're both identical, obviously made at the same time, the same workshops. So everything's identical. And like now, you notice on the early cars you had just one basic door bar, side intrusion bar. As obviously as they progressed through the years, with accidents and one thing and another, they started moving the door bars a lot higher and then putting another door bar in. Like on my Louis car, mine's got double bars.
Has it?
Yeah, just a bit more protection and what have you.
Look, your man Paul looking after these.
I love them.
Aye. Aye. You've done well. Go have a look at the air filter, what one about.
Yeah, we'll have a look, yeah. you can see we mentioned about a couple of minor things still to do like that. The carbon fibre air scoop. This is obviously DJI-1 with the original one on. There is one for that.
Dick Johnson thing, isn't it?
Well, I think we spoke about it on a previous video where a lot of the teams always had their own sort of things, what
quirks.
they did. Yeah, their own quirks, their own way of doing things. The Australians most of their cars tended to have these real big air intakes, and I think obviously their temperatures over there are drastically higher than what we're racing, so getting cold air in was more difficult for them than it was for us. So a lot of the Aussie cars you see these big air intakes. There's a lot of the British cars or the European stood the original airbox, like on DJI-2 there. They ran the original RS500 airbox lid, and they coped really well with that. But the Aussie cars liked the bigger ones. But we've got one for this. There's a brand new one on the shelf just to fit on here to put the correct. But other than that, you can see they're identical. Obviously this one's got a modern alley header tank on, because the original plastic ones, all causes are known for all crack and split. That one's like brand new, as you can see. But because obviously this car, although it's 30-odd-year-old,
hasn't really done much.
It's you know, however many miles it's done in its race career, we'll never know. But it hasn't been used like a road car, has it? So the original header tank's like brand new. That's
different to what you will get on obviously a road car, isn't it? That looks like a tyre valve. That
it is. That's exactly what it is. So you can release the pressure just the same as you would let the tyre down. You can take the pressure out of the header tank by pushing the valve in there. Which obviously when these were running in period and you know, the big race meets, you can imagine how hot these get and how much pressurised you can just, if they need to, they can bleed the system through there, you see, real quick. So if they've had to top it up, they can let any trapped air out of there really quick, rather than trying to take these bleed screws out like you would do on a road car. You take this bleed screw out, let the system, well, you ain't got time for that if you're inside a track. You let the pressure out of there. And I'll show you them aluminium rear arms. Because this is what sort of stuff people will find really interesting.
The parts.
Yeah.
Wow, is it heavy, that?
Yeah, well, not real heavy.
I love a white one, mind.
Yeah, I like white race cars, look great, don't they, I think.
So a lot of people ask for a look under the cars. Paul's ramps are all full at the minute, so we've pulled this up. This is pretty much identical, is it, Paul?
Almost, yeah. All the Group A cars had to be built to what they call homologation papers, and the homologation papers basically were almost like a build list, if you will, of what you could and what you couldn't use, or what you had to use to comply with the regulations for that era. So there are some differences which will show you one of the main ones, but predominantly the cars are very similar. Like on all the Dick Johnson cars, the Rouse cars, Eggenberger, there are slight differences which would be complicated to try and explain, but they all run these big cast aluminium, what they call Group A uprights, where you can see the back of the big spindle there, because obviously they only run one big wheel nut on the Group A cars rather than like your normal 4-stud. You have there your compression strut and your
bottom arm,
track control arm, and your compression strut, all fully adjustable, as you can see there, front and back. So you can basically push the wheel forward, backwards, adjustable there, so you can put more camber, negative. You can adjust negative and positive camber on there. That'll give you your caster, because it moves your wheel backwards and forwards. You've obviously got a coilover suspension, but on the Group A cars, you see, you can also move the actual insert of the shocker up and down with inside the upright.
Oh, right.
So you know, you get quite a lot more adjustment on Group A cars than you would on a normal car with even coilovers now, and you can adjust so much. We haven't got the blades on here yet, but this is what we call a bladed anti-roll bar. It has 2 blades that come out there and then attach through there on a little drop link bar there. So they're all
adjustable in the car as well.
On the later cars, on the 89 onwards, you had a lever inside, and what that did, on one of the blades sit like that, and when you adjust it, it turns the blade. And because the blade's flat on one side, if it's upright, it doesn't have a lot of flex in it. If you turn it sideways, it allows it to flex more, so you can adjust it inside the car. Getrag gearbox, which again is in the homologation. You can run the standard original Cosy T5 gearbox, or you can run the Getrag 265 gearbox.
Did anyone run the T5 gearbox? Yeah,
some of the smaller low budget teams ran fairly basic cars, to be quite honest. A lot of them ran the old rally car 909 suspension components, which all worked, but they weren't anywhere near as good as the correct Group A parts. So, on this here, the little drop links and the blades I was talking about on the front anti-roll bar, they're the same on the rear. There's the little drop link, there's the blade, and as I say, if you undo that, you can turn that blade, but these have to be done before you go out to race. You have to adjust them to where you want to be. And like if it's raining, you take them links off and you disconnect the anti-roll bar, because that allows the car to roll quite a bit, and because it transfers the weight onto the outside wheel, gives you better grip.
Better grip in the wet.
All these rear beams, as you can see, are all fully adjustable. Again, rose jointed and all fully adjustable. So again, you can alter caster, camber, everything. You know, you can
put the wheel anywhere.
Basically put the wheel wherever you want it. This car's running a Ford 9-inch rear diff. Now, Dick Johnson on those two cars and all his other cars, he ran a different rear end. He ran what we call an Eggenberger spec. Now, Eggenberger were like unlimited budget cars, so when they wanted to change anything, it didn't matter what it cost, because Ford would fit in the bill. So this is a rear arm, a brand new one that we've got for another car we're building. And this shows you the difference. You can see on that car the rear arm is a steel rear arm. On this one, it's an aluminium arm. And what you have is what they call a toe link there. That toe link goes to the outside mount. This goes to the inside mount. And again, all rose jointed and all fully adjustable. So again, caster, camber, everything's adjustable in any way you want it to do. But these were just a lot more advanced than the adjustable steel rear arms. Now on the Dick Johnson cars, he ran these rear arms.
So that's what's on that car?
Yeah, on that car, they run the aluminium Eggenberger rear arms. And also another big difference with Dick Johnson, he actually homologated what's known as the Harrop diff. Now Harrop is a company in Australia run by or owned by Ron Harrop. He worked with them to develop a better diff than the Ford 9-inch diff, which in Australia they just didn't like it. They found it difficult to get different ratios for it, found it difficult to get parts for it. So they homologated the Harrop, what's known as the Harrop 9-inch diff. And that's one there. You can see that's got a pump on it, which isn't on most of the diffs, but that's the Harrop diff. You can see completely different to look at to the Ford 9-inch that's in that. Now all the Dick Johnson cars run that diff, which I prefer. I think that's a fabulous diff.
Is it?
Yeah, the Ford, it's like a locked diff.
Right.
It's very, very, very grippy.
Right.
Diffs are, personal preference really, but a lot of the British touring cars converted to this. Graham Good, he switched to the Harrop diff. Dave Brodie ran a Harrop diff, and quite a few others liked that diff better. Harrop, and they're still around today.
Are they?
Yeah, they've just actually reproduced another batch of these diffs, 10 brand new of their diffs, because obviously in Australia and in UK and the 500s are racing again as in historics. So obviously they've seen a market to get their diffs back out there, so they've reproduced that diff.
Cool.
So it can be bought. Not cheap, but nothing is for Group A. But again, if you look at that one, you can see the difference. If you know what you're looking at, it's a different backplate, completely different design, fits in exactly the same, all the same mounting points, but is different to look at and different internally. Again, there you can see these rear arms. I think if I grab it, it'll probably be easier easy to sort of explain the difference really by.
That looks like what's on my car. That pretty much.
It is, mate. Yeah.
Bits welded on here.
Exactly. That's the same, but that goes up.
Go on, Paul. Get them muscles.
Like that.
Aye. Aye.
That replaces.
Looks a lot thicker as well, mind.
Yeah, a lot better.
Is that solid throughout?
No, it's hollow.
Is it?
Yeah, it's hollow. Is that? Quite an expensive item. Is that?
Class. Cool. Cheers, Paul. Cheers.
So I mentioned earlier, Adam, about this book put together by Will Dale and Aaron Noonan from Australia. These guys have spent, I believe, quite a few years putting this book together. 40 years of cars of Dick Johnson from 1980 to 2019. Covers all the cars throughout his career. And there is there's DGR1, as you can see, has a standard 3-door Cosworth before converting to RS500. And it shows you there the two cars being built in the factory, and you can see there, look, that DGR2 is left-hand drive. You can see the steering wheels on the left there. Cool. And it goes through everything about the car's history there. Look, you can see we talked about the original gauges. You can see inside when you see inside shots. There's 500 there, isn't it? That's it as a 500, but look there, number 18. John Bow driving DGR1, so it tells you all about that. There's the picture I mentioned earlier about the car being used. It tells you there. DGR1 carried the number 17 one last time at the Mount Panorama in August 1988 at the Bathurst 1000's first pre-race media day. So it's there in the 88 livery, but with number 17 on it. But as we spoke about, isn't really the correct livery for that car. It tells you the history about it being used in British touring cars. Then tells you all about DGR2. Again, the new car.
So you must have used this book quite a bit for...
I did, yeah. Obviously we looked at... It's fantastic to get the absolute 100% correct history, the detail, every race, positions, who drove it. You can see there we mentioned more than one driver. There's 3 names on the sunstrip there who drove the car. But it shows you the good and the bad. But part of the car's history, it's as simple as that.
I didn't know it was crashed like that. So that's DGR2.
That's DGR2, but it wasn't bad. They always look bad, but they're a minor bump while it was racing. DGR1.
Duct tape on that.
Oh, you can not wrong with a bit of tape. But they go through every car's history, and it goes right through to the later DGR. The last DGR car there, DGR6, which is obviously still in Australia, owned by Terry Lawler.
It's got the DGR wheels on there, hasn't it?
That's it, the wheels that everybody says are the original ones. So yeah, fabulous book that was brilliant for me, and signed, and a personal message from Dick Johnson himself to me. It means a lot to me, but a fantastic book if you're interested in the history of all the Dick Johnson cars. Even if it's not just the areas you're into, it tells you everything right up to the latest victory at Bathurst with that car. I'll
leave a link to this book below if you need one. We're not really plugging it, Paul, just wanted to show you it really.
Yeah, it's just a great book and been a great help to me, especially, restoring these cars, doing the liveries. It's a fantastic, a great
good
book.
Read.
Yeah,
good read. Book. If you want to see more of Paul's place, I've been down a few times now. I'll leave some links to the videos below. There's ones where we look around his workshop. There's a more in-depth one of DGR1. Anything you want to mention, Paul?
Well, just thank you to everybody that's been involved with the restoration of this car. There's been quite a few people over the years. I'm sure I'll forget somebody, but you are. Dibs, you painted it. Just so many people to mention, really. But thanks to everybody that's made it happen and has finally seen DGR2 back how it should look. So I'm grateful to everybody that's been involved in the project.
I'll leave a link to Paul's social media below. He's got a Facebook page dedicated to RS500s. Brilliant page full of fascinating pictures and stories and stuff like that, isn't it, Paul?
Absolutely,
yeah. I'll also leave Paul's Instagram and my Instagram. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Paul. Thanks a lot, mate. Class.